On behalf of USC, we would like to thank Metrolink and, of course, Lisa for working with us this entire semester. And we look forward to you hearing about our student project on Metrolink and Gen Z.
Hi everyone, good afternoon, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and listen to our presentation. We are the USC research team who is tasked with conducting research for Metrolink. And just a special thanks to Lisa for being so supportive throughout this entire semester. So first we'd like to take a moment to introduce our team. My name is Lydia Costantian. I'm a sophomore studying political economy, and I will be speaking about Metrolink's background as well as discussing the focus group we conducted.
My name is Brandon Tran. I'm a junior studying political science. I'll be going over our survey data as well as covering the issue of differentiation.
Hi everyone, my name is Alvin. I'm a senior political science major, and I'll be talking about SoCal Explorers, recommendations for that.
Hello, my name is Selena Villa. I am a junior. I am studying political science and international relations, and I will be covering marketing approaches for Metrolink.
Hello, my name is Adrian Salguero Guevara. I'm a junior studying political science, and I'll be talking about untapped riders and route optimization.
And my name is Chelsea Nguyen, and I am a senior studying data science and political science, and I will be covering the user experience and usability testing.
In a post-pandemic world, there's been a massive shift into more hybrid and remote work. Metrolink, which is a historically commuter rail system, has heavily felt the effects of these changes. There's been extreme decreases in ridership, which is an opportunity for Metrolink to adopt creative solutions and explore the needs of the modern rider. As a team, we have thoroughly researched problems and solutions Metrolink can implement to answer our fundamental research question: how might we help Metrolink grow their ridership, especially among Gen Z? So first, we're going to take a moment to briefly look over Metrolink's vision and values. I have their vision statement above. In essence, they want to provide safe, efficient, dependable, and on-time transportation to enhance people's quality of life. We also read through their strategic business plan, which outlines some areas of focus. Ones I wanted to focus on were 1, addressing climate change, air quality, and sustainability goals, and just overall play a larger role in reducing emissions. They also want to grow their rail systems and ridership by focusing on those untapped riders and tapping into those markets. They also want to address equity, affordability, and accessibility through making stations more accessible and having discounts on fares. In addition, Metrolink wants to expand on their corporate partnerships. They already have partnerships with entities such as USC and the LA Metro, but just expanding upon those. So how has COVID really had an effect on public transportation? Well, there's been an extreme drop in ridership globally. A lot of transit-reliant people stopped using public transportation for a variety of reasons. This could be hybrid work, hygiene concerns. More people own cars now, in addition to safety concerns, which has predominantly been a factor for women. However, a lot of other systems have regained a lot of their ridership back, including the LA Metro. Metrolink, on the other hand, has struggled with this. Weekday ridership is down about 70% from its pre-pandemic peak, while weekend ridership is down about 40% from that peak. And a driving reason for this discrepancy in weekday and weekend ridership is what I talked about before, remote work. Less people are coming into their offices. As we can see, there's been a 55% decrease in LA office occupancy. In addition, this has affected their finances, as we see a 22% decrease in revenue coming from passenger fares. And how has the people who are riding Metrolink changed? Well, we see a slight increase in the percent of riders who are young adults. We can see this as a potential room for growth. We also see a slight increase in the percent of riders who are Hispanic and Latino. And in addition, we see an increase in the percent of riders who are low income. This is due to Metrolink kind of shifting away from the white collar worker and more into other markets like blue collar workers. And what is Metrolink currently doing to tackle these issues? Well, we see a 50% fare discount being implemented for low income riders, kind of speaking to their equity goals. For sustainability goals, we see Metrolink switching to Tier 4 locomotives in the upcoming years and just overall improving their energy efficiency. And lastly, they have an extensive SCORE plan, which plans to improve rail systems and infrastructure in preparation for the 2028 Olympics, which is coming up very soon. So the first way that we collected data was through qualitative data, and this was through a focus group. Our objective for this focus group was to understand people's thoughts, feelings, and perceptions of public transportation and Metrolink in general. The first thing we did was develop a list of questions to ask. However, during the conversation, we deviated from these questions a little bit. The next thing we did was recruit participants. We did this through emails, group chats, and face-to-face interactions. We also asked everyone to fill out a screener questionnaire just to get their perception of and exposure to public transportation and make sure we were getting both Metrolink users and non-users alike. We had 5 people attend the first focus group and 4 attend the second, all from a diverse range of majors, years, backgrounds, and socioeconomic statuses. During the focus group, we asked a variety of questions, including perceptions of public transportation, experiences with Metrolink, and changes that Metrolink could potentially implement. So now on to our focus group results. I pulled some direct quotes from the focus group and have them on the screen. So the first quote I want to talk about is, "I have a bittersweet relationship with public transportation in LA." This was a sentiment a lot of participants agreed with. They thought that public transportation was generally affordable and beats LA traffic, but they don't perceive it to be safe and think it doesn't connect the city in a way that's accessible to a lot of people. Then we asked about factors students consider when deciding whether or not to take public transit. Time, accessibility and affordability, and convenience were the 3 largest factors for students. One interesting takeaway is that the environmental benefits were not a dominating factor when students were deciding whether or not to take it, as we can see from this quote right here. On the bright side, everyone who uses Metrolink absolutely loves it and thinks it's such a relaxing experience. As this quote says, everyone on the Metrolink is kind and nice. Regarding students' proposed changes, students think that Metrolink could do a better job catering to Gen Z audiences. So one idea was having a student ambassador program to increase outreach to students in universities. Another idea was having a discounted train for students during off-peak hours to attract that audience. And the last suggestion was to have some student-friendly cars, so train cars that have Wi-Fi, more outlets, and just cater more towards students who would be doing work on the Metrolink. And what are some general takeaways from this focus group? Well, we see that Metrolink is doing a really good job in retaining its current riders, but not at recruiting new Gen Z riders. So Metrolink needs to do a better job showing Gen Z riders how convenient, safe, and accessible Metrolink actually can be, because there seems to be a little bit of a communication disconnect there. And lastly, Metrolink has the opportunity to adopt creative solutions to increase Gen Z ridership by focusing on student-centered policy. Now I'm going to pass it off to Brandon, who will be speaking about our second data collection method, which was the survey.
Thank you, Lydia. The second method of data collection we conducted was our survey. Our survey amassed 129 respondents, 100% of whom were college students. So very much providing those deep insights into the target Gen Z college student demographic. The goals of the survey were simply to investigate why those that do take public transportation do, and why those that don't. And if you can come to know those things, then you'll understand what drives the market for public transportation usage amongst, again, that target population of Gen Z college students. And if you're able to understand what drives the market, then in theory you should be able to strategize accordingly to optimize your place in it and to grow your market share. As for the key results of the survey, here are just a couple of primary takeaways I really wanted to highlight. To be clear, this isn't everything that could have been learned from the survey. You'll hear my teammates cite other pieces of data throughout their respective parts of the presentation, but these are just a few that I really wanted to key in on. The table on the left is a list of factors that people consider when deciding whether or not to take public transportation. They're ranked in order of most important to least important, with the most important towards the top and the least important towards the bottom. As part of our survey, we asked them to rank order each of these 7 factors 1 through 7, and the average rank that each factor received is the mean value that you see to the right of each factor. Obviously, the lower the number, the more important that factor was. So far and away, the 2 most important factors were affordability and safety, and similarly far and away, the 2 least important factors were environmental sustainability and rider experience. Of course, throughout our project and certainly through our interactions with Lisa, we obviously became well aware that environmental sustainability was something that Metrolink was putting an enormous emphasis on. However, the data here at least would seem to just suggest that perhaps that's actually not the most optimal approach. Instead, it seems that those more traditional and conventional factors such as affordability and safety are still very much worth putting at the forefront, at least in terms of promotion, advertising, and marketing, and so on. This next statistic, though, is the one I really like to zero in on because I personally find it the most concerning. During our survey, we asked respondents whether or not they felt they knew the difference between Metrolink and LA Metro, and a whopping 77% said they did not, meaning that less than 1 in 4 college students know the difference between Metrolink and LA Metro. Which brings us to the first big issue we will be covering here today, and that is the issue of differentiation, which is simply the ability to set yourself apart from your competitors in the eyes of the customer. I also like to take this chance to note that as part of our research project, I did get the wonderful opportunity to read through all 98 pages of Metrolink's latest strategic business plan that was put out on the Metrolink website. And to my recollection and knowledge, nowhere throughout that report did it address this specific issue of differentiation. So to really nail the point home here's a handful of quotes from either our survey or our focus group. The quotes in red are just a few more examples of the data that was shown earlier that many folks are simply unaware of the difference between Metrolink and LA Metro, and in many instances believe them to be one and the same. The quote in gray comes from our survey. As you saw before, we asked respondents whether or not they knew the difference between LA Metro and Metrolink, and if they marked off yes, then we then followed up with a question asking them to clarify what exactly they thought that difference was. And so one person who, again, claimed to know the difference wrote that Metrolink is the bus and Metro is the train. However, the most common response we received was some variation of the quote in yellow, which reads simply, I have no idea what the difference was. However, Metrolink's lack of differentiation is not just something that hurts it reputationally or in terms of brand recognition amongst customers or potential customers. It also has other very tangible harms, such as when it comes to search engine optimization. This is just one example on if someone were to search whether or not Metrolink services to Arizona. Of course, those of us here know the answer, but to someone who doesn't and is just exploring their public transportation options, which obviously makes them a potential customer, the answer and the problem is that the answer they would receive is not even from Metrolink. It would be from LA Metro. And it is exactly these sort of interactions and these sort of instances and moments that leads to the statistics we saw earlier and the quotes we saw earlier. And it's also exactly these sort of interactions that causes someone to go, I searched for Metrolink, the Metro came up, they both got Metro in their name, so they might be one and the same. To wrap up here, the reason why differentiation is so important is because it is a strategic process of setting yourself apart from your competitors, thereby creating a competitive advantage in the market. And differentiation is primarily achieved through 2 primary means. First is by being simply obviously different. So, for example, a soda company wouldn't have to exert much effort or energy into communicating to the customers why they're different from, say, a bottled water company. On the other hand, if you're not inherently obviously different from your competitors, then you just need to exert more energy and effort into communicating that you are a distinct entity from your competitors. And this is where things like marketing, branding, and so on come into play. A really great example of this is Lyft and Uber. Same concept, same service, same idea, same mechanics, yet probably no college student would have much difficulty telling you the difference between the two because with those 2 companies, they have excellent brand recognition. And that is how they're able to differentiate when they otherwise really aren't that different in a significant manner. So with that said, I'm going to pass it off to Alvin and then Celine to talk about ways in which Metrolink can increase its own brand recognition.
Thanks, Brandon. So I want to take a moment to talk about loyalty programs. Metrolink's own SoCal Explorer is a really good example of this. You take the train under certain conditions, get discounts for select purchases. It's a really good idea with really good execution. And today, I'm going to give 2 options for how this could change, potentially. How there could be more opportunities to earn points, an entry-level way to learn more about Metrolink, to become attached to it, and also assisted mobility to easily experience 2 or more distinct products. Let's get right into the first option. As you can see here, you can apply the points you earn to get discounts to stay at various hotels, rent a car, get an Amazon gift card if you're so inclined. All of this is being done right now by Amtrak. Know your name, I know, but I'm bringing them up for a reason. I took a look at Metrolink's current set of partners for SoCal Explorers. And here's the thing, they're awesome, they're great. But they're great for one thing in particular, mostly leisure. It's not really going to allow for this sort of natural, seamless product mix for everyday Gen Z customers in the way that you might imagine. Amtrak, to their credit, is addressing this on their end by allowing for customers to have more chances to redeem their points for other products from more mainstream companies. So continuing to expand current set of partnerships and redemption opportunities available, incorporating, of course, companies that Gen Z would tend to frequent, would be a good, solid way to reach them. And that's option one. Here's the thing though, in our focus group, we had a couple of interesting responses. Basically boiled down to this. I would like to take Metrolink, if only there were more opportunities to earn points. And notice what was said, not more opportunities to redeem the points they've earned, though that is important too, more opportunities to earn points. Option 2 takes this into account. So now I want to talk about Delta Airlines, their SkyMiles loyalty program, and what they did. And I know an airline, why am I bringing this up? It's because Delta in particular presents a very perfect case study for how Metrolink could pretty much disrupt the rail industry by taking inspiration from another. If you've seen this advertisement before, you might know what I'm talking about already. Here it's announcing some kind of partnership between Delta and Starbucks. As early as 2017, Delta has actually taken the positioning themselves to be more attractive, trying to cater to what they refer to as an emerging high-yield age demographic. Under 35 years old, still in college, increasingly this refers to Gen Z. Loyalty programs are great by themselves, and Metrolink recognized this with SoCal Explorer. Delta recognized that as our relationship with the world has changed post-pandemic, well, the unique value proposition of these loyalty programs has kind of changed too. And in that sense, what you need to keep in mind here is that there are more opportunities to earn points than you might realize. The potential here is that you could link one loyalty program with another. Now, officially, this is referred to as a strategic loyalty program partnership. In our case, because for all intents and purposes, we could just refer to it as linked loyalty. What this allows for, as you probably imagine, is what I was talking about earlier, that natural, seamless product mix. Let's say you're a college student. You often get coffee from Starbucks no matter what anyone tells you. And there you go. You purchase your coffee, you rack up points for a future purchase. And let's say you get introduced to an advertisement like this. You now know that you can apply the points you've earned to either get a discounted drink at Starbucks or a discounted ride with Metrolink, Lyft, and Instacart, which, by the way, are some really good partners to potentially partner up with, also have these loyalty programs in place. The process is already halfway done. It's just a matter of linking them up. And of course, as I mentioned all of this, you might be thinking, what about revenue? Well, I'm getting to that. Because all of this basically boils down to two revenue sources that Metrolink could utilize. One of which I already mentioned. It has to do with linked loyalty. You have more exposure, more use cases, and that translates into more product purchases and more revenue. The other part of this, though, has to do with selling data. Customer data, to be specific. You see, potential partners like Starbucks are quick to buy this kind of data in order to help their own business determine what it takes to keep certain customers coming back at certain times of the day, the month, the year. It's really valuable to them. And more importantly, Metrolink would have to protect this data by way of a very thorough vetting process of potential partners and by giving customers a chance to actually opt into it. Nothing shady or unconventional. It's all safe and established terms. And what does this really mean in terms of recommendations? So not only do increasingly advanced loyalty programs offer the companies employing them an immediate lifeline, they can be relied upon for years to come, adjusting for certain demographics like Gen Z. So in the short term, we recommend option one. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue expanding the current set of partnerships and redemption opportunities available for SoCal Explorer. In the long term, we recommend option two. In addition to these partnerships and these redemptions, figure out how to enable linked loyalty. This process of connecting these valuable programs together, giving customers the opportunity to earn more points. And of course, assembling the teams needed to make this happen, to make this work. I'll be passing it on to Celine. Yes, of course.
The second solution I would like to present to you all is marketing.
Uh-oh. Oh dear.
Oh,
There we go.
marketing. The following strategies that I will introduce to you all start from traditional approaches, such as display advertisement, to modern day techniques, including social media marketing. The first approach I would like to introduce to you all is display advertisement inside your trains. Display advertisement inside your trains are highly effective ways for companies and those who are promoting it to work together to generate separate incomes. Advertisements in trains are less likely to be ignored when passengers are sitting down inside of your trains in comparison when they view it in different environments. This targeted approach can result in a higher return of investments for advertisers and the companies promoting it. Many train companies around the world use this type of advertisement on the train to generate additional revenue. One example that I would like to give to you all is the London Underground that is working in the United Kingdom. The London Underground offers a range of advertising opportunities, including display advertisement, floor graphics, and even posters at their stations. Advertisements are strategically placed all around their station and even on their train. They do this so that they can target specific audience at specific times, days, and locations, so that they know that their advertisements are reaching the correct people at the right time and place. Now, I don't have access to the current financial statements of London Underground or their specific earnings related to display advertisements. But the London Underground is known to be highly successful in advertising platforms for businesses due to its large and diverse audiences. In 2019, Transport for London, which operates the London Underground, generated approximately over $200 million alone from revenue from its assets, including the London Underground. Next, I want to talk about media presence. Let's analyze Metrolink's current statistics on media platforms that are highly used by Generation Z. On Instagram, Metrolink has about 29.5 thousand followers with an average of 200 likes per post. On TikTok, Metrolink has about 4,000 followers with an average of 1,000 views per post, but 30 likes per post. While all these stats may sound good to us all, there is something they share, and here it is. There is not enough engagement. By utilizing social media, train companies can increase their visibility and reach a larger audience, ultimately leading to increased ridership. The first thing I would recommend for media presence is getting Instagram verified. So what is Instagram verification? This can provide several benefits, and it starts with having a blue check mark right next to your name. This allows Metrolink's Instagram platform to increase its credibility, to have a great, strong brand protection, and improve its discoverability. For its credibility, the Instagram will work with the account to ensure that no other platform would be using Metrolink's name. It would also ensure that it would reduce the confusion between LA Metro and Metrolink. And for those who are looking to find different forms of transportation around the SoCal area, Instagram verification will allow a higher rate of discoverability for Metrolink. You can also optimize Instagram verification because it provides you free data about how specific followers are engaging with all of your posts and how they are reacting to all of your posts. Next, I want to talk about Metrolink worked with micro-influencers. So what are micro-influencers? They are not your typical big celebrities or big macro-influencers. They typically are within the area, and they typically are closer to the generation that you want to work with. Companies can leverage micro-influencers to reach their target audiences without having to invest such a significant amount of their marketing budget. Micro-influencers tend to have highly engaged audiences because typically they present themselves as genuine and real. Having an authentic person speak about Metrolink and promote your services will influence their audience to look into your company and want to participate into the services that you all are providing. Micro-influencers are also more willing to have long-term relationships with the companies. So don't worry about your celebrities running away too early. Lastly, advertisements need to feel more human. It shouldn't feel like an advertisement. With Metrolink's focus on safety, it's important that you share that message effectively. Coca-Cola, for example, is a great company that knows how to use very less words, but takes out the message to their audience very well. So whenever they try to release a new product for themselves, they can simply say, share a Coke with a friend. And we all have a better understanding of, okay, I know what they're about to release in the next few days. And lastly, I want to talk about revamping the current approaches. One of the most popular ways to get Generation Z's attention is through your merchandise. If it's cute, you can convince them to join the Metrolink. Personally, my favorite merchandise on your website is your tote bag. And I believe that other Generation Z students and more of us in our population would want that tote bag too. I would also recommend expanding into stickers. Now, what we fail to understand to older generation is that stickers actually have really big power. Generation Zs love their stickers on their laptops, on their water bottles, and so many more other places. They're cost efficient, but they're effective because they carry these daily items with these stickers on them. People see these stickers and they grow curiosity with it, so they'll end up searching it. I also want to talk about the Olympics. I know Metrolink is playing a huge role with the Olympics that is entering Los Angeles. And I think this is a moment for Metrolink to look into releasing merchandise that promotes the Olympics. In Japan, when they were hosting their Olympics, they were releasing merchandise as early as 3 years ahead. This will allow the community to be excited and for people to understand that Metrolink is playing a huge role for the Olympics. This could be success for both the Olympics and also the Metrolink. We want people to see the Metrolink as someone who is reliable for them to get to the Olympics. And I hope to see very cute merch from it, because I'd be very interested to see it. Next, focusing on the amenities that you actually offer to all of your riders. Your ports, your tables, your water station. All of these amenities are qualities that Metrolink have and that is very unique to your company. However, not enough people know about them. By promoting the small things that you offer on your train, people will be more interested in joining Metrolink for their travel and their rides. Your amenities should be your top card for this game. And lastly, small details. I have put an example of how Japan uses small details to make their ride a bit more fun. Contrary to our survey actually, ridership experience help with the rates of ridership. It is not the most important, but it is essential. Your trades need to feel welcoming and friendly. Adding small logos of cute figurines or smiley faces at places where people really utilize the areas are small ways for riders to feel that the Metrolink cares. It involves no maintenance and it's a very low cost. By doing all of these things, it will lead me to the summary of our recommendations. I believe that these approaches are things that the marketing team could implement into their system in order to increase the ridership for Generation Z. I will now be passing it on to Adrian, who will be talking about our untapped audiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Celine. Excuse me. So I'm going to be talking about untapped riders, but to begin, I'm going to be talking about some basic rider information. So, how often are Metrolink riders using the Metro? Why are they using general information like that? To start off, 82% of Metrolink trips are work-related. Second, 82% of work-related trips head towards Los Angeles County. And lastly, 61% of riders use the Metrolink 5 days a week. As you can see here, the common theme is work. There is a specific demographic that Metrolink is currently serving, which means there are opportunities to reach new pockets of riders. Tapping other demographics of riders, such as leisure riders, would be a great opportunity for Metrolink to increase its ridership. For my solution, I'll be talking about route optimization. In other words, how to improve Metrolink's existing service to retain and attract new riders. And to begin, I will be talking about reliability. So reliability is a key factor when it comes to running successful public transit. Former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel explains it best. When talking about the CTA, Chicago's public transit system, he says the system is successful because, quote, you don't have to rearrange your personal schedule based on your inability to rely on the system, unquote. So in other words, successful public transit works because it takes you from your destination, from your point A to point B, and there's no need to make alternative transportation plans because it will take you to your destination on time. When it comes to Metrolink, it is a key factor that needs to be improved. On this slide, I have two different charts from Metrolink's 2018 Origin Destination Study. The first chart on the left is satisfaction rating by performance category. In this chart, riders were asked about their satisfaction with Metrolink's performance in different categories, such as reliability and safety. Here are some of the worst performing categories, and reliability consistently appears as the category riders are most unsatisfied with. Additionally, the second chart here on the right is also from the Origin Destination Study, and in this chart, riders were asked about their most desired change to Metrolink, and reliable train arrivals ties for the second most requested change by riders. And that leads me to my first recommendation, which is to continue prioritizing and investing in infrastructure. So Metrolink already has plans to invest in its infrastructure, such as the SCORE program, but it is crucial that it should continue prioritizing this. Here I have this great article by the Washington Post, and it uses the CTA, again, Chicago's public transit system, as a case study on how Washington, D.C.'s public transit system can increase its ridership. Both systems experience a decline in ridership because of delays from breakdowns, old tracks, and old trains. Overall, old infrastructure. Once Chicago secured and invested funds towards its public transit, such as rebuilding stations and tracks, its ridership increased. In 2019, the CTA had nearly 729,000 riders on all of its rails, up from over 597 a decade before. And it is really interesting to note that Chicago was able to increase its ridership even though its population is declining. Next, I'm going to be talking about safety. So safety is another key factor to successful public transit. And when it comes to Angelenos and public transit, they simply do not feel safe taking public transit. According to a survey conducted by the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority, safety is the #1 concern for train and bus riders. These sentiments are also evident when we look at data from our focus group and survey. One of our participants from our focus group noted that they used to frequently use public transit to go to work from USC to Pasadena, but due to a lot of bad experiences, they purchased a car because they were concerned about their safety. And due to these bad experiences, they are extremely hesitant to using public transit. Additionally, in our survey, most of our participants indicated that safety was one of the main concerns when considering whether or not to use public transit. More specifically, one of our participants from our survey noted that safety is a factor they consider because, quote, public transportation in LA is dirty, and there are unpredictable people on the metro, unquote. In other words, people are hesitant about taking public transit because of bad perceptions and safety concerns. That leads me to my recommendation for safety, which is inform Angelenos that it is safe to ride Metrolink on Metrolink's website, social medias, and anywhere possible. So Angelenos perceive public transit as being unsafe. However, Metrolink riders feel safe taking Metrolink. Metrolink riders have cited satisfaction in the following safety categories: safe operation of trains and feeling safe from crime while on trains. Promoting these statistics will provide reassurance to existing and new riders that they will be safe and comfortable while using Metrolink. And lastly, I'm going to be talking about accessibility, but really quickly, I want to acknowledge that accessibility is a vague term. What exactly does it mean? Does it mean to be affordable, handicap accessible, have access to stations? Here, I'm going to be talking about accessibility as it relates to Metrolink's train schedule and convenience. So on this slide, I have the train schedule from the Ventura County line on Saturday. On the left side, I have the outbound schedule to downtown Ventura, and on the right, the inbound schedule to Union Station. As you can see here, the train times are awkward, to say the least. If you want to go to downtown Ventura from Union Station, your only options is to hop on the 7 a.m., 3 p.m., or 4:30 p.m. trains. Similarly, if you want to head back to Union Station from downtown Ventura, your only option is to hop on the 7:40 a.m. or 2:30 p.m. trains. And there are little to no options if people want to use the Metrolink to go out in the afternoon or in the evening. This means that the Metrolink is not accessible or convenient to those who are trying to use the Metrolink for leisure or even work. And this was also noted by a few participants in our focus group. One participant noted that they travel back home every weekend on Friday using Metrolink. They absolutely love using Metrolink, but they said the train times are stressful and inconvenient because the train times run early and the trains do not run on Sundays. Because of this, their parents drive them back to campus on Sundays, but they would like it if they had more trains running. And that leads me to my last recommendation, which is Metrolink should expand its service by adding more train times, because 40% of untapped demand is in the reverse peak direction or in the off peak. And just to summarize that really quick, my recommendations are to prioritize investing in infrastructure, promote safety strings, and expand service by adding more trains. And with that, I will be passing it on to Chelsea.
Thank you, Adrian. So, for our last, technical difficulties. All right. For our last section, I will be covering the user experience, so the journey that the user has from coming up with the idea of wanting to take a trip and then to booking a ticket and all of that online interaction. So with that user experience, I conducted my own usability test in order to test how effective the current website is. I also consulted with the VP of Design of Forward in advising the process of how to conduct the usability test, the questions to ask, what to consider, and her take on the website as a whole, in addition to also taking quotes and answers, experiences from focus group participants, in addition to the usability test, which I had 4 from current Metrolink riders that were conducted in an unmoderated fashion, and then conducting 3 moderated usability tests where I led non-riders through the process, gave them tasks to complete on the website, and to see and understand their process, their thought process of how they interact with the website. And And for the usability test, what does that exactly look like? For the current writer, we had the 4 Metrolink writers. We provided a Word document that detailed all the questions that they needed to answer, including a background and context of their exposure to Metrolink, what is their experience with it, how long have they been writing, in addition to how they purchase their tickets and their goals when reaching a desktop website, in addition to if they use the app, and to understand a context of how they experience Metrolink as a whole, especially in an online environment. And then with that, they were supposed to answer the questions and then give it back to us in a voice memo for us to have for our recordings and for our analysis. And compared to the non-writer, the usability test as well, slightly different in that we had 3 non-Metrolink writers, and I conducted a one-on-one interview with them via Zoom and gave them tasks to complete, say, book a ticket, plan a trip, and see how they interact with that website and have them talk through that vocalized process step by step so we understand how they're interacting with that. And then the snapshot on the right is also an example of the unmoderated usability test. And in terms of the actual tests that are very common across both the current writers and the non-writers, was they were first asked to explore the landing page, the navigation bar, the schedules, planning a trip, the route maps, purchasing tickets, and the mobile experience. So lots to explore and to see how they interact with the website. And additionally, for the non-riders in particular, they were given specific tasks of planning a trip from LA Union Station to Van Nuys and having them interact with everything. But for both groups, one important feature is that they were asked to compare and contrast Metrolink's website with 2 other transportation agencies, one being Ace Rail, which is the commuter rail from Stockton to San Jose, and then also SF-BART, which is the local rail in the San Francisco Bay Area, and seeing how they interact and where their opinions are of Metrolink compared to those 2. And all of these features as well, given screenshots side by side, similar to this here, and asked which one they would prefer, if they would change Metrolink, etc. This mouse is not my friend, sorry. In terms of the findings, there was very much a mixed bag response from both current riders and non-riders. There seems to be some people that think that there's too much information, some people that like having all the information available to them, in addition to having very strong feelings about how the website is not their favorite or loving the sleek design and preferring a browser over an app. So very much kind of split between the non-rider and current rider experience. So then what do they have in common? Where can we find the recommendations in order to cater to both groups of people? So one thing that came out of this was an interactive trip planner. So as it stands right now, Metrolink has a simple schedule. You put in your point A to point B, and you are given a list of times along with the lines. When presented with BART's trip planner, people were very excited about it. They were excited about the map visualization, the ability to see the line, when the live departure times were, the cost, and have all of that right in front of them, and especially with first-time users as well. They were very excited about that feature because they were unfamiliar with the lines. So one thing to invest in is an interactive trip planner to have that map visualization. And with that as well, having an interactive map in general, this is a snapshot of the regional system map for Metrolink with free connections, and it has a lot of great information. I had some users that were like, I'm a map guy, I love having all of the details. And there were some that were very overwhelmed by it, so there was a suggestion of, we want to have all of the access information, is there a way to make it interactive, so if I'm looking for Burbank Airport, I can click on it and it would pop up immediately on the map instead of having to search for everything, since icons are very small and very similar. So that also will make it more accessible to people that need a larger text and more color differentiation as well. And then furthermore, streamlining the ticket purchasing process was something that came up for both non-riders and current riders as well. When given a task for non-riders to purchase a ticket, they were very confused on where to go. Eventually, were able to complete the task, but had to go through lots of clicks and lots of steps, exploring the nav bar and through other directions. And some people didn't know that you could purchase the ticket online, even though it does say print at home where to buy. It wasn't as intuitive to them. Additionally, with the mobile version as well, there was issues with the browser and the app. So in connection with that, there was a strong push to improve the mobile app. It was a very sleek and simple design, it's very easy to interact with. However, there was a common finding that people did not like that if you were to look at schedules per se, that it would redirect you to the browser version of the website. So having an all-comprehensive app was a need that users express, especially for Gen Z when everything is very mobile-centric, and having that experience mobile responsive first rather than desktop first. And to sum up the recommendations that I've had is to include more map visualizations, make it more accessible, make it more visual, in addition to streamlining the process of ticket purchasing so you can get those customers that want to ride Metrolink, and improving the mobile experience and investing in a comprehensive mobile app. And to sum it up with all of our summary recommendations as well, and we have partnerships, marketing, untapped riders, and user experience is to expand partnerships available for SoCal Explorer, enable the additional feature of linking loyalty programs together, assembling teams needed to revamp that program, in marketing, obtaining Instagram verification, collaborating with micro-influencers and Gen Z interns, displaying advertisements with trains, and improving the merchandise designs with untapped riders to prioritize investing in infrastructure, promoting safety strengths in addition to expanding service by adding more train time, and finally the user experience, which I just mentioned, of including more map visualizations, streamlining purchasing tickets, and improving the mobile experience with that comprehensive mobile app. And I want to thank you. That concludes our presentation, and we welcome any questions that you may have.
All right, so now's the fun time. Chance for any and all of you to ask a question of any of our panelists. And wow, that didn't take too long. Very good.
And maybe tell them what area you work in.
Yeah,
so they
great.
know.
I'm Jeff. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations here at Metrolink. And I wanted to say, first of all, for any questions, you guys did a fantastic job. You should be very proud of yourselves. And I think from the experience that you had here, it will carry forth into your career. A lot of the observations that you made here are things that we know because we work at Metrolink every day. But the fact that you were able to affirm that through your research, you didn't know this before you started, presumably, to work on this project, and you were able to, so clearly present it to us is really a great skill that I hope you felt sort of enriched your experience and something that will carry forward later in your career. Now, the question that I have has to do with this problem that we get in our outreach and community relations from the community, not just Gen Z, everybody. People confuse us with Metro, with LA Metro. They confuse the experience that they've had riding the subway or some of the inner city trains with, or conflating that with what they assume Metrolink to be, and it's not the case. And obviously something that you encountered in your research. Did you have any specific suggestions on what Metrolink can do to help clear that up?
I'm laughing because when we first started this project, the suggestion was change the name. And I said, we're not going to do that, right? But we actually did have a conversation about that. I don't know if anyone wants to.
Sure. That was something that was heavily entertained, was recommending,
Until I got him to back down.
recommending a name change, and to be honest, that might honestly do the
Call it
trick.
the Trojan train or something.
Yeah.
I know through our conversation with Lisa one time, you mentioned that,
We just went through a brand, refresh and relaunch, so,
yeah.
yeah.
And we're also aware that even like colloquially, you're starting to shift towards like the link part of it
Yes,
rather than the
yes.
metro part of it. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that pans out long term. Again, something again that was entertaining was the idea of a name change. But as I mentioned kind of in my part of the presentation, even companies that are practically identical, such as Lyft and Uber, they have no problem differentiating because they have that branding. They also have the ability to just kind of reach out to their audience and be in the mind of their audience and have this be one entity, Uber be another entity. And so if you're not obviously inherently different, and by the way, I might even argue that there's greater differences between LA Metro and Metrolink than there are between like Lyft and Uber. And so just by promoting those differences out there and making that, kind of putting that at the forefront of any promotions or advertising you do, I think should do the trick. Although in the long term, certainly it'd be interesting to see how those sort of like colloquial messaging going from towards one the link side of it and the metro side of it. I'd definitely be interested to see how that pans out.
A lot of visuals showing our trains and the link, that name.
Yeah.
And play off the link more than Metro, like Metro's small, but link is big.
Right.
And a big, diesel or, tier 4 train. So that you get that imagery as well as you get the name that is more in link. So, yeah, a lot of good things to consider, but it's a hard road, but we need to do better.
Please.
So, yeah, I thought about this as well, and your presentation really struck me on that issue of differentiation. And I think, my name's Paul Hubler, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer here at Metrolink. I think it's not an apt sort of analogy for Metro and Metrolink to differentiate, even if we were to change our name to the Safe Railroad, or whatever you want to call it. The underlying problem is the same, that I can choose to take either Lyft or Uber. If I'm riding Metrolink, or whatever you call it, you still have to, we don't deliver you to your house. We don't get you to your office. So you still have to, as part of your trip, as your journey, you still have to use LA Metro, or a local bus service, or an Uber, or a Lyft. You know, take your choice. So I think it's an issue that, and it gets back to the underlying problem then, that it doesn't matter if they conflate us. In my view, we're talking about delivering people to a destination. And if part of that delivery is riding on a system that is not as safe as ours, that's our problem. That we need to own that. And we can't just say, you know, well, that's not us. You know, we know you have a bad experience on LA Metro, and we heard you from some of your focus groups that they don't feel safe. I don't know how you guys got here from LA Metro. You took the subway,
Yeah.
Well,
I take it every day.
and I do
Oh,
too. And I was telling Elisa, you know, some days I don't feel safe.
Right.
Other days I just feel aware, vigilant. Most days I just feel vigilant. Some days I don't feel safe. It's gotten better, I think. And that to me is our challenge, that we need to work with, rather than differentiate ourselves and say that's not us. In fact, it is. In the mind of anybody who's using our service, their experience, they're not going to say, well, you know, Metrolink was terrific, you know, but they're not responsible for the last mile I have to go. In fact, in a way we are. We need to own that, because people are not going to ride us if they feel that last mile is not safe. So I think, you know, I thought about the differentiation was really, really interesting to me, but I thought, I don't know that it's, because we are not competitors with LA Metro. That's a complementary service, that we complement them, they need to complement us. And so, you know, we need to find better ways to work together and enhance security overall. And I want to say, in defense of LA Metro, I think it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot
That might
better.
be the answer that you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Having them get better.
Yeah, once they
Yes.
get better,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and maybe it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. Where I think we compete with the county transportation commissions, to some extent, is with the bus service, the long-distance bus, the commuter bus. That's where people have an option. They don't, in some cases, you know, Foothill Transit operates a bus that goes all the way, I don't know, to Pomona, I think. And so that kind of replicates our service. People can choose to ride those commuter buses, which I hear are very nice.
Plush, they're like
very
charter
plush.
buses, yes.
Exactly, it's like
Yeah.
a tour bus.
Yeah.
Or they can choose to ride
Right.
us. And I suppose, you know, the difference there is the advantage, I don't want to take this over, but the advantage of the commuter buses is they get you closer than we
Right.
do. So this is going to be fundamentally a problem, a challenge for us, is the perception. Well, it's not a perception, it's,
Reality.
in some cases, it's real, you know, this sense of insecurity aboard the subway.
Did you want to add another point to that?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention that, like, in terms of USC students, I feel like a lot of people are deterred from taking Metrolink because they believe they have to take a Metro, but actually the way we got to Union Station was through a shuttle bus that is only USC
Oh,
student,
yep.
takes you directly to Union Station.
Yeah,
So I think maybe like Metrolink could do a better job, like advertising that, being like, we have that shuttle, it takes you directly there, it's safe, you don't have to worry about the Metro, so that's just like specific to USC, but I feel like there might be other options versus having to take the LA Metro at every connection.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of reaching out to the USC population,
Right, in particular.
not only students, but staff.
Right,
and
faculty. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
I think it's interesting on the accessibility portion that you had, if that was something that was also specific to Gen Z, because in the outreach that we do in community relations, just to the broad community, the broader community, even eclipsing safety is, we want more day trains and we want more night trains. We hear that all the time. Is that what you heard among Gen Z folks?
Yes.
especially with,
Yes,
with
yeah.
your schedules, you know, you guys have to go
Well,
out late.
Also, Gen Z wants whatever they want when they
Yes,
want
that's
it,
it.
right? I'm hungry,
Yeah.
boom, 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 here it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So,
On
I
demand.
guess I'm picking on you guys, but I can do that because I'm old.
Yeah.
But this is our future,
I understand.
right?
Yeah.
These are our
That's
future
true.
writers, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually had a question. So this is going back a little bit to what Paul was saying. When you compared Uber and Lyft, you were comparing to privately held companies, right? That were dominating the entire country. And we are a regional railroad, right? Regional commuter railroad. And like Paul said, we are a complement to the metro and vice versa. So when you were doing your research, did you look into any similar systems, like local commuter rail and local bus and train in other parts of the country? Just curious.
The only case studies where we looked in that particular across the state at least was for that online experience, but for the specific actual experience of like taking the BART or taking the ACE rail, like we don't have data for that.
Okay. I think I was referring more to, I agree that before I worked at Metrolink, I didn't know what Metrolink was. And when I explain it to people, I have to say, it's like Amtrak, it's the actual railroad. And so I think what I meant was the comparison of conflating the two different services. So did you encounter any of that? No.
No,
Since
but
the research focused mostly on,
But I would say that I feel like Amtrak does a good job differentiating itself. I'm not really sure exactly how they do that, maybe just more brand
it's because
recognition.
Amtrak runs
to, like,
more than just in
Yeah.
Southern California, it runs across the country as well. It also has like 100-year-old history, I don't know how long Amtrak is.
Yeah, it's national.
Yeah, it's national, it's,
Recognition, right, right. And yeah, that was fine.
And
Amtrak, no.
I think we're having trouble understanding what you're actually asking. From what I'm hearing, is it how we distinguish Metrolink, which is like the commuter rail service, from a similar train service like Amtrak? Is that the question?
no, it was, so people in LA and the surrounding areas confuse Metrolink and Metro because they all think it's the same system, right? And it makes sense to compare Uber and Lyft because visually their brand is different, their brand recognition is different because of that, but they cover the same demographic. So if you were to take a commuter rail in Chicago versus the bus and light rail system in Chicago, are those two different systems? Are they the same agency? So things like that. In other,
Oh.
yeah, we compare. So do people in other places, I guess the question is, did you find in your research if people in other parts of the country got their commuter and passenger rail confused with their local bus and light rail?
So I did not necessarily research this, but I am from the Chicago area. So in Chicago, the bus and the rails, they're the same company, they're both the CTA, and they're supposed to complement one another. So the rails take you only so far, and then the buses are a supplement to take you the rest of the way to your
Is there
destination.
commuter rail in Chicago, or is it only like places, okay,
Yeah,
so it's commuter rail as
Metro,
well?
there's
Yeah.
Metro, right?
Metro.
yeah, so that one's the one connecting the suburbs to the city,
Mhm.
and then the CTA is the one actually running through the city.
So I guess that's what I meant, so do
Yeah.
people confuse Metra and CTA? No, because it's very clear what you just said.
Yeah.
Metra
Yeah.
connects you to the suburbs and CTA
Yeah.
connects you intercity.
Also, they don't
So-
share the same name.
Yeah.
Metro,
Well,
Yeah.
Metro.
You know, the
yes.
answer might be as simple as that.
The
Yeah.
answer is change
And
that.
it's kind of baked in, but.
But again, I think if we just can reinforce the link in our messaging, right? And focus very small on the metro.
The problem with that is our brand is still Metro Link. And
Yeah.
so the focus on just Link. Sorry, this is a
Yes.
this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that can get like a little bit confusing if you're kind of referring it to both names.
So I think we have time for one more comment, maybe one more quick question, because we'll try to honor.
Lisa, did you have a question?
I guess we
And
have
Lisa's our,
commenters.
Chief Technology Officer.
So first off, I'd like to say kudos on the recommendations. You guys are spot on. Just FYI, we are working on a whole mobile ticketing refresh and website refresh and all of that around trip planning and visualization. Just great. So I guess in terms of your demographic or the folks that you surveyed, how many folks did you survey? And do you feel as though if you had maybe expanded it, because it looked like you had like a couple of focus groups.
Yes.
If you had expanded it, do you think you would have gotten similar results, or do you plan on, I know it's like a small sample, but I don't know if it's significant.
So for the focus groups, I think Lydia has a better take on.
Yeah, I could definitely speak on that. We would have loved to have more people on our focus group, but we had 5 in one group and then 4 in the other. I would say I feel like we did a good job getting users who have taken Metrolink frequently and also haven't taken it. So I think that in general was pretty representative because we got kind of like 2 different perspectives. And also I would say that our participants came from like a large range of socioeconomic backgrounds and just majors, years was very different. So I think that we actually did get a population that was pretty representative of USC. However, as always, it would be good to have more data.
Right.
So.
And in terms of your demographics, did
Yeah.
you find that there were major differences between the demographics, between male and female, age, socioeconomic group?
We did have more female participants. Actually, did we? No, it was kind of like even. Maybe like slightly more.
For the focus groups, it was pretty even, and
Yeah.
then for the survey, we also collected demographic data for that as well, and I think that was more female dominant in that instance.
I think one discrepancy we might have had is we ended up getting a lot of people who have like political science backgrounds because they were more interested in the survey or in the focus group in general because that's like an area of interest to them. So that might have been the only like bias they kind of had. But I would say like overall like backgrounds they came from, it was very diverse. Yeah.
A lot of times you get different results, like, right, if you research like business-related students or IT-related students, right?
Yeah.
They basically sent it out through groups that they were affiliated with, is that?
Got it.
So,
Okay, yeah.
there's only so many ways to spread.
Right.
And what I think was fascinating was how many original responses did we get? 500 and something, but
Oh
a
my
bunch of them were bots.
Oh!
Oh.
No, for the
Yeah.
survey, yeah.
So we had to go through and pull out the bots.
Okay, wait. So I was trying to expand our reach, and then I forgot that those exist, but I was able to differentiate very quickly because I was just staring at the results as they came in, and ultimately decided, once you close it, clean it all because there was an easy way to filter it out because of a simple question that I changed. So we cleaned the data and then ultimately got to 129 real participants that we verified also through the student directory afterwards.
Don't put surveys on LinkedIn. That's a bad idea.
Well, on behalf of USC, I would like to thank Metrolink. This has been probably one of my, favorite people to work with. Lisa, you've been wonderful. Thank you for the lunch. That was so kind. The board experience, I think, is invaluable. I wouldn't want to be Lisa talking about carb. That's all I know. I don't know what it is, but it scares me. But it was a really neat experience, I think, for all our students. And it really only takes place because of people that are willing to give their time and effort. So I really do appreciate that. On behalf of the University of Southern California, fight on.
All right.
So thank you.